Hello, everyone. Have you ever listened to English once, understood a little, and then felt like everything disappeared the next day? Like the words were clear for a moment, but then slowly faded away? You try to remember. You try to recall the sentence, but nothing comes back clearly. And in that moment, you may feel confused. Why does this keep happening? Why do I understand English but cannot keep it? Many learners experience this again and again. They listen once. They understand a little, and then they move on. They look for new content, new words, new lessons. They believe learning more will help them improve faster. But something important is missing: repetition. Listening once is not enough. Your brain does not learn deeply from one exposure. It needs time. It needs repetition. It needs to hear the same patterns again and again. But many learners avoid repetition. They feel it is boring. They want something new. They want something different. But the brain does not learn best from new things. It learns best from familiar things. When you hear something for the first time, your brain is just trying to understand. It is working hard. It is trying to catch the meaning, but it is not ready to store it deeply yet. So after some time, the memory fades, not because you are not good at learning, but because the information was not repeated. This is how the brain works. The first time is for noticing. The second time is for recognizing. The third time is for understanding more clearly. And after many repetitions, something begins to change. The sentence feels familiar. You do not need to think too much. You begin to understand faster. And this is where real learning begins. Because learning is not about seeing something once. It is about seeing something many times. Another important idea is reducing effort. At first, listening feels difficult. You need to focus. You need to try. But with repetition, the effort becomes smaller. Your brain becomes more efficient. It recognizes patterns faster. It understands without translating. And this creates a feeling of ease. This feeling is very important. Because when something feels easy, you can continue longer. And when you continue longer, you improve more. Another key point is familiarity. Familiarity changes everything. When something is familiar, it feels comfortable. When it feels comfortable, your brain does not resist it. And when your brain does not resist, learning becomes natural. This is why repeated listening is powerful. It turns something difficult into something familiar. And when something becomes familiar, it becomes part of you. Another important idea is pattern recognition. Language is not just words, it is patterns. When you listen repeatedly, your brain begins to notice these patterns. It sees how sentences are formed. It sees how words are used together. And slowly, it begins to understand naturally, not by thinking, but by feeling. And this is how real language learning happens, not through memorization, but through recognition. At this point, you may begin to see something clearly. The problem is not that you forget. The problem is that you do not repeat enough. And when you change this, everything begins to change. Because your brain already knows how to learn. It just needs the right conditions. And repetition is one of the most important conditions. But there is still something important we need to understand. How do we use repeated listening in a practical way? How do we make it part of our daily life without feeling bored or tired? And this is where the story begins to go deeper. From understanding repetition, to using it effectively. Now that we understand why repeated listening is important, we can begin to explore how to use it in a practical and effective way. The goal is not to listen more. The goal is to listen better. The first step is choosing the right material. If the material is too difficult, your brain cannot follow the meaning. You hear sounds, but they do not connect. This creates frustration. If the material is too easy, your brain does not grow. You understand everything, but you are not learning new patterns. So you need something in the middle, something you can understand partially, but not completely. This is the level where learning happens. The second step is staying with the same material longer. Many learners listen once and move on. They want something new. But deep learning does not come from new content. It comes from repeated exposure to the same content. When you listen to the same audio again, something changes. You recognize more. You understand faster. And each time, your understanding becomes deeper. The third step is changing your focus each time you listen. The first time, focus on general meaning. Do not worry about every word. Just try to understand the main idea. The second time, notice familiar words. Pay attention to what you recognize. The third time, listen to sentence patterns. Notice how the sentences are formed. The fourth time, listen more naturally. Do not try too hard. Just allow the language to flow. This process helps your brain learn step by step. Without pressure, without stress. The fourth step is listening regularly. Not once in a while, but every day. Even a short time is enough. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What matters is consistency, because the brain learns through repeated exposure over time. The fifth step is using passive listening. You do not always need full focus. You can listen while walking. You can listen while doing simple tasks. This creates more exposure, and more exposure creates familiarity. The sixth step is combining listening with speaking. After listening, you can repeat simple sentences. Not perfectly, just naturally. This helps your brain connect listening and speaking. And this connection is very powerful. The seventh step is being patient with the process. Repeated listening may feel slow at first. You may feel like you are not improving. But learning is happening inside your brain. Patterns are forming. Connections are growing. And over time, these changes become visible. You begin to understand faster. You begin to feel more comfortable. And this is the result of repetition. Another important idea is letting go of boredom. Many learners stop because they feel bored. But boredom is not always a bad sign. Sometimes it means something is becoming familiar. And familiarity is the goal. So instead of avoiding repetition, you can change how you experience it. You can listen with different focus. You can notice new details. This makes repetition more interesting. Another key point is trusting the process. Your brain needs time to learn deeply. It cannot happen in one moment, but with repetition, it becomes possible. At this point, you may begin to see something clearly. Repeated listening is not just one method. It is the foundation of natural learning. It supports memory. It supports thinking. It supports speaking. Everything connects to listening. But there is still one important part left. How do we turn repeated listening into a natural habit? How do we continue without losing motivation? And this is where the story moves forward. From practice to automatic learning. So now we come to the final part of this story. How can you continue repeated listening in a natural way without feeling tired or bored? Because many learners understand the importance of repetition, but they still stop. Not because they do not want to continue, but because it becomes difficult to maintain. So the real question is not, is repetition important? The real question is, how can I continue repetition? The answer is not about strong discipline. It is about making repetition feel natural. The first step is to remove pressure. Do not try to understand everything. Do not try to remember every word. Just listen. Allow the language to flow. When you remove pressure, your mind becomes relaxed. And when your mind is relaxed, listening becomes easier. The second step is to make repetition part of your routine. Do not treat it as a special activity. Treat it as something normal, something you do every day. You can listen while walking. You can listen while resting. You can create small moments of listening in your daily life. This makes repetition easier to continue. The third step is to keep your materials simple. Do not change your content too often. Stay with one or two materials. Repeat them many times. This creates deep familiarity, and deep familiarity creates natural understanding. The fourth step is to accept slow progress. Repeated listening is not fast. It takes time, but it creates strong results. When you accept this, you become more patient. And patience helps you continue. The fifth step is to notice small changes. At first, you may feel nothing is changing, but slowly something begins to shift. You understand a little more. You recognize words faster. These small changes are important. They show that learning is happening. And when you notice them, you feel encouraged. The sixth step is to enjoy the process. If listening feels like a task, you will stop. But if it feels like something natural, you will continue. Choose content that you like. Stories, simple conversations, something that feels interesting to you. This makes repetition enjoyable. The seventh step is to trust your brain. Your brain knows how to learn. It just needs time and repetition. Every time you listen, something is happening. Even if you do not notice it, patterns are forming, connections are growing, and over time, these changes become visible. Another important idea is letting go of control. Many learners try to control the learning process. They try to force understanding, but learning does not work that way. It grows naturally. So instead of controlling it, support it. Give your brain what it needs: time, exposure, repetition, and slowly something begins to change. You understand more without effort. You recognize patterns instantly. And English begins to feel familiar, not something you study, but something you experience. This is the power of repeated listening. It transforms the language from something difficult into something natural. And this change is not sudden. It grows slowly, through small and consistent actions. So if you remember one thing from this story, remember this: listening once is not learning. Listening many times is learning. Return to the same material. Stay with it. Allow your brain to become familiar. And over time, your understanding will grow. Thank you for spending this time with the story. And as always, see you in the next story.